let's get into this Chargers Raiders game. I thought this was one of the most intriguing games just because one, you have a new look Raiders offense, right? You have Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams did not disappoint. Devontae Adams was absolutely insane. But you have him, you have Waller, right? Okay, you got all these big moves. On the Chargers side, you don't have J.C. Jackson, but you do have Khalil Mack, and then of course Khalil Mack went absolutely insane. But the Chargers also added some depth in their secondary, got a little bit better there. And my big takeaway from this one was, hey, all those pieces that the Raiders added looked really good. We saw Chandler Jones make a couple plays. I already said Devontae Adams looked incredible. Dude, Carr was bad. Carr was really bad in this one. And I was surprised just because his guys like Waller had a pretty solid game. Adams had a pretty solid game. Even like Jake, I wouldn't say Jacobs had a solid game, but Jacobs had a couple like solid run plays and like their running game. I thought it was weird that they used Brandon Bolden a little bit more than I was expecting, but overall, I just found it really interesting because both of like the new additions that were on display there looked really good. But I still kind of have the same question marks for both of these teams. So I watched this was the afternoon game that I watched most. I usually watch like a few games and rotate through and have like red zone on and stuff like that. Um, but for the Raiders, all the pressure is on Derek Carr. Like you better have your career year this year. We got you everything you need. Like this is the year you got to go win the division, even though it's kind of like your work cut out for you of how good the AFC West is. But there's a lot of pressure on him. He didn't look very good. And then flip side for the Chargers, everyone. I mean, if you ask any like, it feels like at this point, if you ask any fan like who are the best quarterbacks in the league, they bring up Justin Herbert every single time. And we've talked about Herbert, and this isn't to knock Herbert, but like a lot of times in games, it just gets really flat and he just kind of doesn't do anything. Dude, the second half, the Raiders were in the game and they had absolutely no business being in that football game. The Chargers didn't do anything offensively for like the last 25 minutes of the game. And I was sitting at it there and I'm thinking, this is the exact question marks that I've had of Herbert since he was like before he was declaring for the draft at Oregon. Like it's always been the same thing. It's never the tools, but you got to be able to win football games. The Raiders had like 4 opportunities that they probably shouldn't have had being like within like 1 or 2 scores where they just kept barely being able to chip away, not playing well, and then they're still in the game at the end of it. So I thought it was just weird because yes, you bring these new additions, but I still have the same question marks for these teams. So that was a big thing there. And McCon, I saw you nodding when I was talking about Herbert a little bit. What did you think? And do you think I'm kind of spot on with that? Like, hey, you got these new additions, they look nice, but you had the same question marks.
Yeah, so this game, so I was at the Ravens game for people that don't know. So I really only got to watch the second half of this game. I was, on my phone and, trying to watch stuff, and then I get to the Lincoln Tunnel, and I'm like, oh no, I don't have service anymore. My phone died, and I was like, okay, can't watch this game anymore. It was like it seemed like Herbert was playing well, and then I turn on the TV when I get home, and I'm like, Chargers game, Chargers Raiders, boom, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is this still kind of playable? And I'm like watching it, and I'm like, this Chargers offense isn't moving. And this, Matt and I have talked about this consistently. We love Herbert. We are big fans of Justin Herbert. But like Matt said, the question about Herbert is the consistency, and not just his overall consistency, but every time it just seems like the offenses and the teams that they're in, they don't keep their foot on the gas. And that's what you expect when you have a player the caliber of Justin Herbert, right? When you have those guys that are those gunslingers, they have all the tools and they have the weapons. You look at Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, it was just, oh yeah, they just kept going, right? And then they got to a point where they're up like 30 on the Cardinals, and they're like, okay, now it doesn't matter. But like this is a division rivalry, and I was watching that whole game, that whole second half, and I'm like, are the Raiders going to pull this off? And they had the ball down. What did they lose by 5 points? Um, they had the ball late, driving, and you're like, how? And everybody, this is the funny thing that came out of it was a lot of people because the Burrow and Herbert they're going to be connected forever, like Trey Young and Luka Doncic, same draft class, both super talented, both super loved by a lot of people. A lot of people were going out there and they were saying because obviously Joe Burrow had a terrible game, against the Steelers, 4 picks and a turnover, and I saw these people and they were like, Don't ever compare these two quarterbacks again because, we had all these interceptions. And it's like Justin Herbert almost did the exact opposite, where it's like, yeah, he didn't turn the ball over, but the offense fell completely flat, and he allowed the opposing team to come back and nearly win the football game. Now, luckily, Herbert ended up pulling it out. You got to give him credit for that. Joe Burrow, unfortunately, honestly, you can't really blame him too much for the end of game struggles, but the first half was, kind of atrocious for him. Those are the things that we are trying to figure out whether or not he can do. Can Justin Herbert make a 60-yard throw, off his back foot? Yeah, but that he was doing that at Oregon. The question is, can Justin Herbert be a consistent quarterback in the NFL at that superstar level for a full game in these big, meaningful games? In this game, um, it just seemed like another one where the team just comes back. You don't want to be a superstar that has other teams come back because there's some guys, right? You let Josh Allen get a 14-point lead on you. You let Patrick Mahomes get a 14-point lead on you. You're done. But it seems like Justin Herbert right now, he gets a big lead on you. It's okay. Like if you just play good football, you can get right back in that football game.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, I want to add one more thing because I didn't bring it up when I discussed it. But to be fair, he was missing Keenan Allen, and early on in the game, Keenan was the guy. Like he was hitting Keenan over and over and over and over again. So that could also throw it off. But the difference is like when I talk about Herbert, that's always like this is kind of my question mark with Herbert. It's never about the tools. It's like you were saying, we like Herbert. Like I think he can be really, really good. I mean, I think he flashes the Josh Allen, Mahomes tools, right? He does. He definitely does. But is he going to win at that rate? Is he going to continue to go on these cold stretches? Because it's been like 4 years where he's consistently gone on cold stretches. But I just did want to bring up that Keenan Allen was out because that plays a significant role in like, okay, a little bit harder to start to keep carving up the defense when it was very clear that the guy that you were going to carve them up with was Keenan Allen because the Raiders had absolutely no answer for him. He was open. It felt like every single play early on, and it was just Allen, 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 and then he got hurt. I was like, okay, that's tough. Like it's really tough when your number one guy goes down in the middle of the game. But still, that's my question marks with Justin Herbert.
I have a question for you, Matt. When should Brandon Staley be fired?
Well, he went for it on a 4th down again this game, and I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me, man! Like at a stupid point too. I was like, why are you going for it? And then they run like a halfback dive or something. I was like, dude, really?
It was like 4th and 3 or something like that,
No,
right?
it was a
Was it
4th and 1, I want to
4th and 1?
say. Yeah,
Okay.
or 4th and 2. It wasn't super long.
Okay.
But it was just like I I don't think he's very good. And I've said that since like the beginning of dude, he's the reason they didn't make the playoffs. Forget everything else. I get that they couldn't stop the run. I get that they couldn't do things, but there's a lot of pressure. If they don't make the playoffs, he's going to be fired. And if he's not fired and they don't make the playoffs, that's a joke. Like I don't know what to tell you. Because they should have made the playoffs. They should make the playoffs this year, barring any injuries. And last year, they absolutely should have made the playoffs. And it was kind of almost like an embarrassment that they didn't. Trying to think of anything else in this game that kind of stood out. I think the Chargers defense looked nice, dude. Like, and they didn't have JC, and their defense was still balling out. So, hey, you bring up Brandon Staley. If the defense continues to look nice, that's his product right there. And they got a bunch of good players, but he's also part of the guys building this team too. So I was really impressed by the Chargers defense. I did bring up that I didn't think Carr played that well, but also there were guys on Chargers defense flying around making big time plays. So that helps a lot. I think the question mark for them is going to be, are they going to be able to stop the run? In this one, the Raiders were trying to air it out a lot, and they didn't have much success doing so. You have 3 picks. Adams was amazing, but like, all right, Adams is going to do that to anyone. I just thought they held their own in terms of stuff, and they made a bunch of plays. They got a lot of sacks. The pass rush is legit as we expected with Mack and Bosa. Dude, that's so dirty. I every time I bring that up, it's like, God damn, man, you got Mack and Bosa on that D line. That's crazy. So I think that was probably the other takeaway. I think the Raiders are still pretty solid. I think both these teams are legit teams in the AFC. I think they're both clearly contending for a playoff spot. But I'm excited. I thought this game, like when I was looking at the afternoon slate, I was like, damn, this is definitely the game I'm gonna be keen in on the most because this is a sick one.